Hello, my dear students. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to tell you about a very important topic in Python, that is tuples. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn about what are tuples, tuple operations, traversing a tuple, tuple methods and built-in functions, nested tuples, programs based on tuple packing and unpacking, and some of the question answers. So please do like, subscribe, and share my video if you like it. And now, without any delay, I would like to introduce you to the topic tuple. So basically, what is a tuple? Tuple, children, is a standard data type in Python. It is a sequence that is used to store values of any type, basically mixed data types, we can say. So we can create a tuple in Python using the parentheses that is the round brackets. As you can see the tuple over here, we have used the round brackets, we have used integer values, we have also put a string over here and a float value over there. Now, one of the most important characteristic of tuples is that tuples are immutable. They are immutable sequences. Now, what is meant by immutable? Immutable is that they are non-modifiable. We cannot change the elements of tuple in place. As suggested earlier, elements of a tuple are put in round brackets. They are separated by comma. We can create tuples of different types. We can create tuples of integers. We can create tuple of mixed data type. As you can see, we can take a string value, we can take integer, or we can also take a float. We can create a tuple with a list as an element. We can create tuple with tuple as an element, as you can see over here. And we can also create a empty tuple. So now how do we create an empty tuple? Let's have a quick look how we can create tuples. So to create an empty tuple, what you need to do is, in our previous example, we saw that we can add the elements in the round brackets. To create an empty tuple, you just need to put an empty parenthesis over there, as it is given over here, tuple 3. Another way of creating an empty tuple is using the function tuple. This is called as a constructor function. Using the constructor function also we can create an empty tuple. We have already seen how to create a tuple with elements. Now how to create tuple with nested elements. So herein you can see we can have a tuple within a tuple. So that is called as a nested tuple. Here we have taken the example of tuple within a tuple only. Tuple 5 is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the sixth one is going to be the nested element. Now, as I said, that tuples are immutable. So it means that elements of a tuple cannot be changed after it has been created. An attempt to do this would lead to an error. Let's quickly have a look at this example. If I have a tuple with name tuple 1 is equals to the elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I try to change the value using the index number, I will get an error, and the error is going to be type error. That means tuple object does not support item assignment. However, an element of a tuple may be of mutable type. For example, a list. So fourth element of the tuple 2 is a list over here, as you can see. If we have this list, now this is mutable. So this you have to keep in mind, that we can change the value, the element which is mutable itself. So herein you will see that this is a nested tuple, right? The fourth element we would like to change. So taking the index number this as 0, this 1, this 2 and this 3. So if I wish to change the first element of the third place, with the element which is at the third index value, if I wish to change, I can change. And if I try to print this particular tuple, you will see that the modification will be reflected over here. Moving on to the operations that can be performed in a tuple. Just like we can perform these operations in lists, we can perform in strings. Similarly, these three important operations of joining the two tuples, that means concatenation, replicating the tuple values, replication, and finding a value within a tuple, that is membership. All these operations can be performed on tuple. So the following manipulations can be done. The first one being concatenation. Now what is meant by concatenation? Joining the two tuples is called as concatenation over here, and it is depicted by symbol plus. We can also create a new tuple which contains the result of this concatenation operator. Let's have a quick look. Let's assume one tuple having values 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, another tuple 2 which has even numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now I can join these two tuples. Now when I join these two tuples using this plus operator, tuple 1 and tuple 2, right? What output will I get? The resultant tuple, you will see the values of the second tuple, that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, have been added after the values of tuple 1. So this is called as joining. They do not get intermixed over here. Let's take another example. That is, let us take the colors in tuple 3, red, green and blue. Tuple 4 is cyan, magenta, yellow and black. And if I wish to join the two tuples, what I can do is, as it is mentioned over here, the two tuples can be joined. The values can, the resultant operation can be, the result can also be put in the third tuple. So herein we will see that if we try to print tuple 5, the same result will be, the same output will be reflected by joining the two tuples. The next operation is replication. Now what happens in replication? You are very well aware that the operator multiplication, when used with tuples, lists or string, what does it produce? It replicates, it duplicates the value the number of times it is mentioned in the statement. So let us assume over here tuple 1, it has two string values, hello world. If I wish to print this 3 times, I can use the multiplication operator over here in this form, and the output over here will be that this particular tuple, exactly the way it is, it will be replicated. No other modification is taking place over here. Tuple with single element. So if I wish to replicate a tuple with single element, I can do that as well, and the output will be in this form. The next operation that we are going to learn about is the membership operation. So what is this operator going to do? This operator basically checks if the element is present in the tuple. So it finds the presence of an element. So if the element is present, it will return true, else it returns false. So let's consider a tuple. Tuple 1 is equals to red, green, blue. And if I wish to find whether the element green exists in tuple 1 or not, I can write green in tuple 1. Please note that these elements are of string type. So here in the syntax also, I will have to write exactly in this form. Since green is present in the values, it is a part of the tuple, the resultant value will be true. And if in case if it is not present, just like checking green not in tuple 1. So what is going to be the output? The not in operator returns true if the element is not present in the tuple. Otherwise, it returns false. This actually is negating. Green is not in tuple, you are asking. Obviously, green is there, so the result is false over here. Now, how to traverse a tuple, how to access each and element of the tuple. Just like we have been using indexing in strings in lists. Similarly, tuple values can also be accessed using the indexing method. Now, how do we do this? Let's have a quick look. Assuming the elements 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 a part of tuple 1. Now, if I wish to access this first element, these elements are internally reference through the positions. This position is called as the index. So 2 will be referenced using the index number 0. Indexing always starts from 0, as you are already aware. So in case if I wish to do that, I can write the index value in the square brackets as we have been doing for list and string. So if I give this statement, I write this over here, I will get 2 as the output. Similarly, to access the fourth element of tuple 1, I will have to write the fourth element. So 1, 2, 3, 3 and 4. The index value over here is 3 since it starts from 0. So I have mentioned 3 over here, and then the output that will be displayed on the screen is 8. So in case if you put an index value which does not exist, so the output that will be displayed on the screen is the error, that is index error, tuple index out of range. We can also put the tuples in the form of an expression, as you can see over here. 1 plus 4 is going to result in 5. So the element which is there at the fifth index value is going to be displayed. Just like we do the forward indexing, similarly we can do the backward indexing over here. So if I wish to access an element from the right, I need to mention the negative indexing value, that is the backward indexing value. If I start from -1, the element 12 will be displayed as the output. To display a part of the tuple, list or string, we definitely use the concept of slicing. That means in case if I wish to display a sub part of a tuple. So herein what I need to do is I need to simply use the index values, the start value and the stop value, just like we have been doing in strings and lists. So let's have a quick look at how we can do in tuples as well. So assuming the elements of the tuple 1 as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 and 80. Now if I wish to display a part, that means from index value 2 to index 6. So if I say this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. From here, if I wish to display these elements till the 6th index value, what am I going to write? I will have to put the start value separated by a colon and the stop value. Now here the stop value is 7. The reason being that the stop value is always exclusive. This is actually going to display only till 6 over here, just like we have been doing in list and string. the last value is always exclusive. So you have to mention 1 plus 1 value over here in the stop in case if you want to include the sixth value as well. All elements of tuple are printed if you give this statement. Len is a function which we are going to learn subsequently in our uh, next slides. So if I wish to display all the elements of the tuple, I can give the start value as 0. I can calculate the length of the tuple. Once the length of the tuple is calculated, for example, the length will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements are there. And as I said, that the last element is always exclusive. The stop, whatever value you mention over here in the stop, that is exclusive. So it will start from 0 until 7, it is going to display. So the output is going to be this. Slice starts from 0 index by default. So in case if you do not mention over here the start value, it will automatically assume that it has to start from 0. Slice is still end of tuple. In case if you mention the start value, you do not mention the stop value. What happens in this case? Entire tuple is traversed. So if you miss out the first value, the start value, the slice will start by default from the 0 index. Whereas if you do not mention the last part, that is the stop element over here, then it is going to go till the end. It is going to traverse till the end. So this is the output in this case. I can also mention the step size. Now this is very, very important over here. You need to understand this part, that I can mention the start, I can mention the end, but in case if I wish to skip some values in the middle, so herein I can put the third parameter as well, separating it with the colon only. So you will see that the output now is going to be 10, 30, 50 and 70, and it skips one value in between. Remember, it skips one value. So the step value is 2 and it goes to the second value. We can also use negative indexing, backward indexing. So herein what happens? In backward indexing, if I say my index values are going to be like this, -2, -3 and -4. So the start value given over here is -6. So which all values will be extracted? Starting from -6, then -5, and then is this value going to be displayed or not? This value is again exclusive over here. Please remember, this top value is always exclusive. So the output is going to be 30 and 40 and not 50. 50 will not be included over here. If we wish to traverse the tuple in reverse order, it is very, very simple. You simply need to skip the start value, you need to skip the stop value, and then for the step size, you can write -1 and the tuple will be traversed in reverse order. So this is going to be the final output. Now moving on to a very important concept, that is tuple assignment. What is meant by tuple assignment? In tuple assignment, what happens is that as you can see over here, there are two elements. Both these elements, both these identifiers are there, and these two elements, the values will be assigned to these identifiers. So what is going to happen? First element 10 is going to be assigned to num1, second element 20 is going to be assigned to num2. This is called as tuple assignment. Herein we need to only understand and remember one thing, that the number of variables the number of variables on the left should be same as the number of elements in the tuples. And when I print number 1 and number 2, you will see 10 and 20 will be the output subsequently. Now here what I have done is I have taken a tuple name and I have put some values. For example, taken the name of a child, Pooja, 40 marks, and CS is the subject. If at all I provide the identifiers on the left hand side, name, roll number, subject, and on the right hand side I give the name of the tuple. So these tuple values will be copied to the identifiers on the left. If I wish to print name, the output will be Pooja, roll number 40, and subject is going to be computer science. This is called as tuple assignment. Now this is a very important topic in Python and it's a very important characteristic. Here and this particular concept is called as unpacking, and let's learn now what is unpacking. See now what happens over here is I have written variables A, B, C, D on the left hand side and three values on the right hand side. So if I do this, I will get an error. This is an exception. It says value error, not enough values to unpack. Expected 4, got 3. Now let's have a look at this packing and unpacking. So when I talk about packing, what is packing? So creating a tuple from individual values is called packing. And creating individual values from a tuples element is called unpacking. So let's quickly have a look at first what is packing. When I assign certain values to this particular tuple, say tuple T2, I assign 1, T, 1, 2, A, B. This process is called as packing, as I'm assigning individual values to the tuple. If I wish to print, I can print that. Next here, what have I done is I have taken 4 variables on my left hand side, individual identifiers W, X, Y, Z, and I'm assigning this tuple to these. Since there are 4 elements in tuple 2, I will require 4 variables on the left hand side, 4 identifiers. Now what is going to happen? If I print W, X, Y, Z, you will see that 1 is copied in W, 2 is copied in X, and so on. So this process is called as unpacking. Creating individual values from a tuples element is called unpacking. The next concept that we are going to learn is nested tuples. Now what is a nested tuple? A tuple inside another tuple is called as a nested tuple. So in a given statement, what we are going to do is we are going to create a tuple of roll number, name and marks in percentage of students, and we will store it in the form of a nested tuple. So in case if you have to do it in a program, how will you write these values? Just have a look. Assume that there is a tuple ST refers student over here. I can give the roll number, the name of the student and the marks. This will form one tuple. This will form another tuple, tuple of student Geet, tuple of student Sahil, and tuple of student. So we have created one tuple over here which has nested tuples, 4 nested tuples over here. You can enclose them in brackets and form a nested tuple. So moving on to the next segment of our tuple chapter. Herein we are going to learn about the inbuilt functions, that is the built-in methods. There are 7 built-in methods which are explained over here. The first one being len, second one being min, max, sum, index,
tuple and count. Now let's have a look at each of these, that what is their function. So len function, as we have seen in other data types as well, it returns the length or the number of elements of the tuple passed as the argument. Similarly, max function, the argument to be passed is the tuple itself. It will return maximum or largest element of the tuple. The min built-in method again requires a tuple as argument. It will return minimum or smallest element of the tuple. And the sum function, this also requires the tuple as the argument, and this also returns sum of the elements of the tuple. So let's have a look at how do these work. If I assign these values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 to the tuple, and I give tuple 1 as the argument to the len function, the output is going to be 5. Similarly, if I assign these values over here to tuple 1 and I write the min function, the max, the sum, putting tuple as the argument. So from this tuple, 9 is the smallest number and the output will be 9. 87 being the largest number, output produced will be 87, and the sum of the elements is 235. The next set of functions are the function sorted, count, index, and tuple. Now what is this sorted going to do? It takes elements in the tuple and returns a new sorted list. It should be noted that sorted does not make any change to the original tuple. Tuples are immutable. Similarly, count will return the number of times the given element appears in the tuple. Index, it returns the index of the first occurrence of the element in the given tuple. Please note that these functions are also available with the list. So just like we can create an empty list, we can also create an empty tuple if no argument is passed using the tuple constructor. So let us take up the example of tuple 1 over here. To use tuple 1, I can write, to find the index of a particular number, I can write tuple 1 dot index. What do I need to do? I need to put the value of the element whose index I wish to find. So 30 is present on second position and the output will be 2. Now if I put any element which does not exist in the tuple, what is going to happen? It will flash an error, that is value error, tuple dot index x not in tuple. If I wish to sort my tuple, so sorted is the function, tuple 1 will be the argument, that is the tuple is to be sent as the argument. You can see the names of some students are put over here, Rama, Hina, Raj, Mohsin, Aditya. In case if I wish to sort them, I can write sorted tuple 1 and the output that will be produced will be a sorted order. This particular tuple 1 is not going to be affected or changed. The next function is the count function. If I wish to count how many times a particular element is present in this tuple, for example, I've put 10 over here. So in this particular tuple, 10 is there 3 times, so the output is going to be 3. If you wish, if you put any element which does not exist, then the count will be, output displayed will be 0. So index function we have already seen, and sorted also we have already seen. Now let's have a look at how to create a empty tuple. So creating an empty tuple is very simple. You can use this tuple constructor, give the name of the tuple on the left hand side. If you try to see or check the data type, you will see tuple 1 will be displayed like this. Now I can also assign values, that means pass argument to the tuple function. When I pass it as an argument, then to the tuple will be created, the values will be assigned. You can see over here, I have passed this as an argument, A, E, I, O, U, string values I have passed, and the tuple has been created. This is another example wherein a list is being created, and another very simple and important example wherein I am trying to create a tuple using the range function. The values from 0 to 4 are assigned to the tuple over here. So if I wish to now write a program, for example, write a program to input n numbers from the user. I wish to take n numbers from the user and store these numbers in a tuple, and I wish to even take up the maximum and minimum number from this tuple. So if I wish to take input of n numbers from the tuple, what I will have to do? The first is declare an empty tuple. These are the steps which we can follow. We may also follow some other steps, but here I am using these generalized statements. So the next step would be to either use a for loop or to use a while loop to take the input of values from the user. And the third step would be to actually take the input of values. Fourth step, how to append values in a tuple. That means keep appending values in a tuple, that we are going to see, and then how to print the tuple. So let's assume that our tuple is tup2 over here, empty tuple I've created. I will execute this particular task using the while loop. So till the statement is true, we take the input of numbers from the user. Now herein please see, if I take the input of numbers from the user, how I can keep adding the values in the tuple. Tuple is basically immutable, but then we have a very important operator over here, plus, which acts as an appending function. So an individual element of a tuple can be represented using the comma over here, and the empty tuple can be used to keep appending the values. So using the plus operator, what is going to happen if I put a number and then I start appending the values, concatenating the values using the plus operator, the values will keep on adding. Once I have taken the input of all values, what I need to do is I need to use the max and the min function over here to find out the largest and the smallest value. Now herein we need to understand one thing, children, that this loop will become an infinite loop. So somehow this loop is to be terminated, right? So that also we have to keep in mind. This is another program wherein what we do is we create a nested tuple. How can we create a nested tuple? Take the input of, first create an empty tuple, take the input of values from the user. For example, if you wish to take marks for 5 students, so you can use the for loop. Over here, take the marks in the variables m1, m2 and m3, and then using the previous method of appending the tuples, you can appending the values, you can use the plus operator to append the values, right? And now these are the questions which you will be able to answer after you finish watching this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, please do subscribe and share.